Most job seekers make application decisions far too quickly. They look at a job title, scan the requirements, and ask, do I match? Some people use tools like Jobscan, some use prompts in ChatGPT or Claude and ask, what's my percentage match? Others look at the percentage match scores available on tools like JobRite AI. But here's the actual problem. A percentage score isn't a reliable way to judge whether you're actually a good fit for a job. A lot of those tools work from a semantic matching or language matching perspective. They compare words, phrases, and similarity. But that's just not how recruitment decisions are actually made. A recruiter is not just asking, does this resume use similar language to the job description? Okay, what they're actually asking is, does this person have enough evidence to suggest that they can do this job? And that's the different question. A better job search is not about applying to more roles. It's about understanding which roles deserve your time, which roles need better positioning, and which roles you just simply do not apply to because you're not a good fit. Because if you base everything on a percentage match, you still do not know what to do next. Okay, you don't know what the next action point is. Okay, should you tailor? Should you follow up? Should you apply quickly? Should you skip the role completely? And that's what this video is going to help you understand. I'm going to walk you through the 4-tier role fit system that I teach to my clients. And this is the system that I use to judge whether a role is a tier 1 alignment, tier 2 alignment, tier 3, or tier 4. And most importantly, I'm going to show you why the decision is not based on keywords. It's based on evidence, proof, context, and scale. Then I'll show you how to use a prompt to analyze your resume against a specific role or multiple roles so that you can make better application decisions instead of just guessing. So most job seekers judge fit like this. They put the role into one of two boxes. Either I'm a good fit or I'm not a good fit. And at first, that seems logical. But the problem is that most people are using very weak signals to make that decision. They look at job title, they scan a few requirements, they recognize some keywords, and then they think, I match 70% of this job description, so I should apply. But that's just not how strong candidates judge fit. Role fit is not a yes or no feeling. It is not just, do I like the role? It's not just, have I seen some of these words before? And it's definitely not, do I match random percentage of the job description? The better question is, can I prove enough relevant alignment to justify applying? That word prove matters because employers are not hiring you because you feel interested in the role. They're trying to decide whether your experience gives them enough confidence that you can solve the problem that they are hiring for. So the question changes from, do I match the job, to, does my experience give this company enough evidence to believe that I can do this job? And that's the shift. We're moving away from feelings, keywords, and percentage scores. And we're moving towards evidence, proof, context, and scale. So now that we know the simple good fit versus not good fit model is too basic, let's correct the decision boundary. So this is the first major correction. In this system, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 are all roles that you can apply for. Tier 4 is the only do not apply tier. And that's really important because the system is not saying tier 1 is good and everything else is bad. That would be way too simple. And the actual system is this. Tier 1, tier 2, and 3 are all apply roles. Tier 4 is the skip role. But the effort changes depending on the tier alignment. Okay, so a tier 1 role is a top fit role. That means you should apply, prioritize, tailor, network, and do the correct cadence for following up. A tier 2 role is a good transferable fit. That means you should apply, but you may need to potentially explain your fit more clearly. You might have to showcase the right skills and proof, but there may be a gap in industry, product, domain, scale, or context. Okay, a tier 3 role is a crossover fit. That means there's enough overlap to apply, but not enough alignment to spend serious time on it. You just quick apply. You don't heavily tailor at all, and you do not obsess over the outcome. Okay, this is crucial because it really helps candidates to set expectations at the application stage. To put this into perspective, most candidates that I speak to that are struggling to land interviews, when I say, what is it that you look for in a job description to determine fit? The things that they usually say are hard skills or technical skills, responsibilities, and years of experience. And fundamentally, if they are the only parameters that you match or that you fit the role for, then you're probably either not a good fit or maximum a tier 3 fit. Okay, and that's why a lot of people apply for hundreds or thousands of jobs and get little to no success because they're basing their fit on parameters that are not actually top or good tier. Okay, tier 4 is different. So tier 4 means there's not enough evidence to justify applying. You might like the job, you might really want the job, you might want the company, you might recognize a few words in the job description, but if you cannot prove enough relevant fit, it's tier 4. And this is where job seekers waste so much time. Okay, they apply to everything with the same low effort approach, or they spend hours tailoring for roles where they only have weak alignment. And the point of the tier system is just to stop that. The question is not just, should I apply? The better question is, how much effort does this role deserve? Okay? And to answer that properly, we need a way to understand the role before we judge the fit. And that's where the role fit map comes in. So this is the role fit map. This is the diagnostic tool that we're going to use. So before you decide whether you're tier 1, 2, 3, or 4, you need to understand what the role is actually asking for. Okay, zoom in slightly. So most people completely skip this step, either through sheer laziness or just the fact that they don't understand how to analyze a job description or job opportunity. Okay, they jump straight into resume writing. They look at the job description and think, how do I make my resume match this? But that's the wrong starting point. The first step is not rewriting your resume. The first step is understanding the role completely. Okay. Now, this can be difficult at times because there isn't a one uniform way to write a job description in the same way that there isn't a one way to write your resume. Okay. But we can use these different elements to actually help us understand a job description a lot better and gain more clarity about the opportunity. Okay. So the role fit map answers one core question. What would a credible candidate need to prove good fit for this role? Okay. And that's the whole point. You're not just collecting keywords. You're trying to understand, what does the company do? Why does the role exist? What problem are they trying to solve? What responsibilities matter the most? What skills are essential? What industry or domain context actually matters? And what would a recruiter screen for quickly? What proof would make someone credible? And can your experience transfer into this context? So is your experience actually transferable or not? And this is what turns this specific approach from a guessing exercise into a more structured decision. And this particular role fit map helps you stop asking, do I match some words, or do I match based on a percentage? And it helps you to start ask, can I prove that I actually make sense for the role? Okay, it's not just a checklist, it is how you stop guessing. So to make this easier, let's break it down into more simple stages. Okay, so the first stage is points 1 through 8. Points 1 to 8 are the role diagnosis. They're not the final tier decision yet, but this is a really important step, and it's an important distinction. Okay, this helps you understand what the job actually requires. Because reading the job description and saying, I match this, is not deep enough. First, you need to define what fit actually means for that specific role. So points 1 to 8 ask questions like, what does the company do? Who do they serve? What market are they in? Why might the role exist? Are they building something, fixing something? Are they looking to scale? Are they replacing someone? Are they improving performance? Are they protecting the business? What problem are they trying to solve? What responsibilities matter the most? What is standard for this type of role in this type of company? What is unique about this company, team, product, or the environment that they actually sit in? And what hard skills are essential? What soft skills matter? What industry or domain knowledge would actually help? And what would a recruiter likely screen for in the first 10 seconds? Okay, and this is what we're doing through points 1 to 8. Okay, they're helping you understand the role before you judge yourself against it, because you can't actually prove fit until you understand what fit actually means for this specific role. But for example, 2 jobs might both be called data analyst. Okay, but one might be reporting heavy in finance. Okay, and another might be a more product analytics focused role in SaaS. Another might be an ops analytics role. Okay, where you're required to use SQL, dashboards, and work on process improvement. All 3 of those are the same job title, but they're different roles with different proof needed, and therefore you as a individual candidate will have a different tier decision against those roles. Okay, because your profile remains the same, the job opportunity profile differs. Okay, so points 1 to 8 help you avoid lazy matching. Okay, they tell you what the employer probably needs, but they don't fully answer, am I a fit? Yet. Okay, that comes next. So once you understand what the role requires, then the next question is, what proof would the employer expect to see? Okay, and that brings us to the most important part of the whole framework, which is point 9. So this is probably the most important part of the system. So if you're going to take notes on any stage, it probably would be this point. Okay, so point 9 is not just proof, it's the expected proof test. Okay, it works exactly like this. Based on everything that we analyze in points 1 to 8, so if we go back and refresh, or we can have them side by side. Okay, so everything that you analyze points 1 to 8. So what does the company do? Who do they serve? Why might the role exist? What problem will you solve? What will the outcome create? What does the job usually involve? What's unique about the company? Which tools, systems, platforms, and everything else involved. Okay, so based on everything that we analyze through points 1 to 8, what proof would the employer expect a credible candidate to actually show? Okay, so we're looking at all of this, and we've done the analysis. Now, based on the analysis, what proof would take you from being a candidate that has crossover to being essentially like a top fit, a good fit, or just that crossover? Okay, and that's the key, because you're not randomly listing achievements. You're asking what 3 to 5 projects, wins, examples, or experiences, so we're looking at bullet points here, would make somebody look credible for this particular specific role. Okay, and this is where role fit becomes a real thing, because a candidate does not become a fit just because they mention keywords. They become a fit because they can show actual evidence. For example, if a role asks for Python, SQL, stakeholder management, and product analytics, okay, a weak candidate might simply say, oh, well, I know Python, and I know SQL, and I have stakeholder experience, and I've written the word stakeholder in my resume. But a strong candidate proves it at this particular scale in relation to the particular company. Okay, so they might show that they've actually built dashboards used by specific product leaders, okay, and quantified that in relation to the alignment needed for that specific company, and that they've used SQL to investigate product adoption, okay? And they will state the actual scale that they've done it at, the impact that they had, the significance of that impact to the business, so that recruiters can actually determine and understand potential ROI and transferability. They've worked with product managers, but they'll explain how many and in what context and how many business units and what that looked like and how it benefited and in what capacity they actually work with them, okay? Well, they'll state a particular metric that's improved that's actually important to the business, not just like a vanity metric that you're putting in your resume to try and make it look impressive, okay? So point 9 asks, did you build the thing? Did you solve the problem? Did you use the tools? Did you work with the right stakeholders? Did you deliver the measurable impact? Did you handle similar like complexity within the workplace? And did you do it within a ballpark that is at least similar or within the realm of the particular company that you're applying to, okay? And that's what separates the surface level matching, the keywords, the years of experience, the standard responsibilities from actual alignment, okay? And these are the things that you can't quantify with a percentage match, okay? And that's why the percentage match concept just does not work, okay? A lot of job seekers seem to think they're a good fit because they recognize language, okay? The actual question you need to be asking is, can I showcase 3 to 5 relevant examples that make this particular employer or this particular company believe that I can do the work? If you can, your tier goes up, your tier alignment goes up. If you cannot, then your tier alignment goes down. And that's why this point 9, is the real filter. Okay, keywords might get you noticed to some capacity, but the actual proof is the thing that creates confidence, which triggers potential employers justifying wanting to interview you. But even if proof is not enough on its own, okay, the next question that you've got to ask is whether that proof is strong enough for the level and context of the role. Okay, so we're looking at proof, we're looking at scale, we've looked at the way that that kind of matches into or aligns into the specific company you're applying to, but we've got to look at the actual level and context of the proof, okay? And that's where we go into point 10. So this is solely focusing in on the actual scale and transferability check. Okay, this is where a lot of candidates overestimate their fit. A lot of candidates completely ignore, okay, and they think, I use SQL, so I match the fact that this company is asking for SQL. That's not enough. The better question is, where did you use SQL, at what scale, in what environment, for what problem, with what business impact? Because two people can have literally the exact same skill on paper, okay? You could take somebody that is by career history an accountant, and you could take somebody that by career history works in construction, and you could take somebody that by career history is a teacher, and you could take somebody that by career history is a data analyst, okay? All 4 of those people could make a resume with a technical skills section that looks exactly like the data analyst. Okay, so if all you were measuring fit on was percentage matching of keywords, then all of them would be a great fit for the job. But realistically, they're not, because only one of them actually has done projects at a capacity which is aligned to what a company might actually be looking for. And that's where the whole percentage match thing goes out the window. Okay, you gotta look at a few examples. Okay, so on the left we have this here, weak proof. Okay, we use SQL in a small portfolio project. Okay, 5,000 roles, no real users, no business decision influence, no stakeholder pressure. Okay, that does not mean the person has no ability. It just means the proof is limited. Okay, now compare that with the strong proof on the right. Okay, use SQL in a live business environment with 30 million plus records, with real use at scale, leadership reporting, product decision making, stakeholder pressure, and measurable business impact delivered. Okay, now in an ideal world, all of these things would be quantified, but to draw this back to its most basic level, and most people will just do this, okay? A lot of people will just put like a percentage value or a percentage metric to try and make it look like they have given impact. But if we don't explain what's behind the percentage, what makes up the percentage, how it was measured, what the start point was, what the end point was, who was involved, who it affected, how it actually positively affected the business, not just the initial project, then it's useless for the person reading it, okay? When we're actually looking at applicants, okay, and the reason that this point matters so much is because it asks whether your proof was done at a similar enough scale to what that company's hiring for, okay? You could have a super impressive profile, a super impressive track record, and a super impressive resume, okay? But let's say you are we can just call you employee A, okay? Let's just remove the actual job title, okay? You're employee A. You've worked on, let's say, operations projects, okay? Let's keep it as vague as possible for this example. Person A, you've worked on operations projects, and the company that you've worked for employs 50,000 people. Okay, you look at a job description, and based on all of the bullet points that are in there, you go, this is brilliant. I've worked on similar problems and solutions. I've worked on similar projects. I've got the technical skills and the certifications that are required. Okay, so I'm going to apply because I'm a good fit. Okay, you're showcasing proof. But even with that proof, you can still not be a good fit for the company, because if that company that you've applied to employs 20 people and they're a startup, the scale of the projects that you've worked on are probably not a good alignment for the company you've applied to. Okay, so that's why just having a keyword match and a percentage language match doesn't do it, because in that instance you would probably have like a 70+% language match or keyword match, but you've not done it at the right scale for what that company are looking for. So we're not looking at matching, we're looking at inference. Okay, and inference is something that isn't ever calculated through the likes of JobRite or JobScan or a really basic ChatGPT type prompt. Okay, what we want to ask is, well, was the data size similar? Okay, was the user or customer base similar? Was the business pressure similar? Was the team environment similar? Was the level of responsibility similar? Was the impact similar? Was the industry context similar? Was it production level work or a small project? Okay, were you working across multiple business units or just one? Were you servicing one particular state in the US, or was it multinational? Okay, this matters because the employers aren't just asking, can you technically do it? They're asking, can you do this work in our environment? Okay, at our level, with our complexity and with our expectations and our budget. Okay, and this is what separates a tier 1 alignment from a tier 2, and what separates a tier 2 from a tier 3, and what separates tier 3 from tier 4. Okay, skills do matter, but proof at the right scale matters more. Okay, so now that we understand the role, the expected proof, and the strength of that proof, we can finally assign the tier. So this is the 4-role fit tier system. Okay. But at this point, we've already done the thinking. Okay, points 1 to 8 define the role. Point 9 defines the expected proof. Point 10 defines the strength of that proof. And now the tier tells us how aligned that we actually are. Okay, so tier 1 is top fit. It means you've got strong alignment, strong proof at a similar scale. You've done very similar work in a similar enough context with clear evidence. For tier 1 roles, it makes sense to tailor. Okay, it makes sense to prioritize, and it makes sense to network and follow up properly. Simple. Okay, you would be considered a top tier applicant against all of the other competition for that role. Tier 2 is a good transferable fit. Okay, so this means that you have a good alignment, good proof, but some transfer is needed. Maybe the industry is different, maybe the product context is different, maybe the scale is slightly different, maybe the domain isn't the exact same. Okay, but the experience is still credible, and there is a way that you are actually aligned to the role. So for tier 2, you should apply. Make sure that your resume is positioned clearly so that they can understand where your value actually lies. Okay, but you don't need to rewrite. Okay, there's generally no point tailoring if you're anything less than a tier 1, because you can't tailor your resume and take you from tier 2 to tier 1. You can't take yourself from tier 3 to tier 2. Your experience is your experience. The way that you align to individual roles will always vary. But the only way that you could take yourself from being a tier 3 to a tier 2 is by making up your experience, by embellishing, by lying. Okay, but that doesn't actually truly represent your value. So don't do that. Okay, tier 3 is a crossover fit. So this means it's partial alignment. Okay, your proof is limited. The scale might be smaller, the role-specific experience might be missing, the recruiter has to make more assumptions. Okay, tier 3 is still above the apply line. Okay, so you always apply if it's tier 3, but it's quick. You never tailor. You don't spend loads of time following up, if at all. Okay, and use it for pipeline volume. What's great about this is it sets expectations. Okay, so if you can define whether your alignment to a role is 1, 2, or 3, then you're applying for them all. But if you apply for a tier 3 role, then you can realistically sit there and say, well, yeah, I probably don't realistically have a great chance at securing an interview here. But once you've applied, you're not spending any more time on it, unless you get an interview. Okay, you're not following up. You're not trying to network with the people who work there. You're not tailoring your resume. You're not doing any of that stuff, but you are applying, and it sets expectations. So it also helps you avoid being disappointed if you don't get an interview. But you're still sending your resume across or your application across because realistically, you don't 100% know what the company you're looking for. You might think that you're not a tier 1. You might think you're a tier 3 for a particular role, but a company might not be looking for someone who is within the same industry, etc., etc., etc. They might be looking for a totally different profile, in which case you might get an interview, but it helps you set expectations. Okay? Then we have tier 4. So tier 4 is below the apply line. This means weak alignment, weak proof, no transferability or poor transferability. You may be interested, you may really want to work for the company, but you can't show enough evidence that you are actually a credible fit. And this means just don't apply. Okay? Use it as market research if you want. Find where the missing proof in your profile lies for this type of role and maybe try and upskill, work on yourself, but leave it there. Okay? Target roles where your experience is better aligned. The key thing to remember is just this. Tier 1, 2, and 3 are all apply roles. Tier 4 is do not apply. Each tier deserves a different level of effort. Okay? Whether that's tailoring and following up, whether that's just leaving it alone completely. Okay? There's not an exact science to it because every single job is different, every company is different, every job description is different, and every candidate's resume is different. Okay? But it's a practical way to judge alignment before actually wasting time. Okay? So let's make it easy with a real example. Same role, 4 different candidates, 4 tiers. Okay? So this is where the system becomes much easier to understand. Okay? So the target role is an AI engineer at a healthcare SaaS company. Okay? The role needs things like, and we're doing this on a really basic level, by the way, but the role needs things like Python, LLMs and RAG, cloud deployment, product collaboration, healthcare regulated data, workflow automation, measurable impact. And now, in this particular example, Okay, the job is the same. Okay, this here in the middle is not changing. Okay, we made it as basic as possible. The role isn't changing. Okay, but each candidate, okay, let's go on green, yellow, red, and orange. Okay, they're all different. They have different evidence. Okay, so candidate 1 is tier 1. Okay, this person's built AI tools in a healthcare SaaS company. They've shipped RAG systems into production. They've worked with sensitive or regulated data. They've collaborated with product and engineering teams. They've proved workflow efficiency and delivered measurable impact. Okay, that's tier 1 because the proof is direct. Okay, context similar, the scale is believable, the employer doesn't need to make a big leap. The person should tailor and prioritize the role and follow up accordingly. Okay, simple. Candidate 2 is tier 2. Okay, the person's built an AI system in fintech SaaS. Okay, remember we're looking at, it's a healthcare SaaS role, so industry is different for this person. Okay, they've have strong Python, LLM, and RAG and cloud deployment experience. They've worked in regulated data environments. They've collaborated with product and engineering teams, but they do not have the direct healthcare experience. Okay, it's not a bad fit. It is a good transferable fit. Okay, proof strong, but the gap is context. Okay, so this person needs to explain why the fintech regulated data experience transfers into healthcare work itself. Okay, and you do this just through your resume. Okay, you might have that pre-written, you might need to amend it slightly. Okay, but this guy's a tier 2. Okay, you can see the difference. If we look at these 4, okay, and we'll get through all 4, but we can already see that this guy, tier 1, or green, is most likely a better fit than yellow. Okay, so he's tier 2. Candidate 3, okay, so orange, is a tier 3. Crossover fit. So they're a software engineer, a data scientist, okay, and they have some AI project experience. So they've got strong Python skills, they've done some LLM experiments, prototypes, but they have limited production AI deployment, okay? No healthcare or regulated data context in their experience, and they may not have strong business impact proof in relation to the role, okay? So they're a crossover fit. There's enough overlap to apply, but not enough to treat it like a priority role, okay? So just do a quick apply, no follow-up, no tailoring. It's worth sending it off because you never know what you can get out of applying for a job. There's no point spending loads of time on it. There's no point following up. Apply, list it as tier 3 in your tracker, and then if something comes back from it in a positive way, great. If you get rejected, you've already set the expectation that you're probably not going to get the job, so it's fine. Okay. And candidate 4, the red candidate, is a tier 4. The person's completed an AI course and has built basic chatbot demos, but there's no production experience, no impact, no data that's similar. There's no similar environment. Okay, not enough proof for the role. Tier 4. Okay, we can change this up slightly. Okay, let's say the course was a master's degree in AI. Okay, now this person will probably have some of these skills in their technical skills section of the resume. Okay, and this is what a lot of people I see do. They'll go, great, I've done a master's degree in this particular domain. I've got technical skills listed. Brilliant, I'm a good fit. But realistically, you're just not a good fit because you've not considered the actual things that a company are looking for. Okay, tier 4, do not apply. Okay, the job does not decide the tier. Your proof against that job decides the tier. Okay, the actual job itself, when we analyze it, we can actually work out all of the different elements. So if we just come back and look here, we've analyzed the job. Context, hiring reason, problem solution, standard, non-standard, or role specific, hard skills, soft skills, and then what we're actually looking at in terms of proof. Okay, but if we come back here, okay, the role, now we've broken it down, okay, isn't changing. There are a lot of people that might work in the wheelhouse of this role. Okay, but all of them have different experience, different evidence. Therefore, there'll all be a different tiered alignment to this particular role. This means they've all got different chances of being a good fit for that particular job or company. Therefore, they've all got different next action points. Okay, so now that we understand the tiers, okay, the final step is turning the tier alignment into the actual action. Okay, so when we actually look at effort, the tier only matters if it changes your behavior. Okay. And this is what this particular matrix is for. Okay, so we want to know if I'm tier 1, what are my next action points? From tier 2, how much effort am I putting in, etc., etc. Okay, and this is what this matrix is for. So it tells you how much effort each role deserves based on your alignment. Okay, so zoom in slightly. Tier 1, top fit, proof is strong, it's relevant, you're at a similar scale. So your action is apply, tailor, and follow up extensively. Okay, simple. Why are we following up extensively here? Because you're a top tier alignment, you're a top tier candidate for the role. So if you don't hear back, follow up because you've got a reason to. Because the company are likely to get back to you if they're taking their time about it, if they potentially overlooked you by accident, which can happen. Okay, but if you're a tier 3 fit and you're following up extensively, the company are going to go, well, what's this joker doing? They're not a good fit. Why are they sending me email after email after email? Why are they trying to connect with all of my employees on LinkedIn asking if the role's still open? Okay, you need to make it make sense. Okay, so tier 2, we've got transferable fit. Okay, so your proof is good. There are some context gaps. Okay, so your actions are apply, You don't need to rewrite. Very rarely will you ever tailor. Okay, but you should still follow up. It shouldn't be an extensive follow-up cadence, but you should still follow up because you're still a good fit. Okay, and it's as simple as that. It's all about setting your next steps. Okay, you being able to determine what alignment you are, what tier fit you are, helps you understand, well, what are my next steps? Okay, which roles do I spend time on? Which roles do I not? Okay. And then if we look at some of the lower fit alignments, so tier 3 is a crossover fit. The proof is partial or weaker, your action is quick apply, don't tailor, don't follow up, don't spend any emotional energy on it. And this is what I'm talking about, setting expectations. You don't need to feel sad about it, you don't need to feel disappointed, you don't need to feel stressed about getting rejected from a job if you've already determined that you're a tier 3 alignment. And this is the best thing about it. Okay? And this is what most candidates do make mistakes on. Okay? You have tier 3 roles, tier 1 effort. Okay? Rewrite the resume. They keep rewriting it. They change their emails. They do loads of hacks which don't work. Okay, send messages to the recruiters, send messages to the employees, ask for referrals. Okay, they obsess over the outcome, but the role was never aligned. Okay, it was never aligned enough to deserve that much time. It was never aligned enough for them, the employer, to get back to you. Okay, and it's as simple as that. Okay, and tier 4, you're just not a good fit. Okay, the proof is weak, your positioning's weak or missing. The actions are simple. Don't apply, don't tailor, don't follow up. Save your time, save your energy. Okay, and it's that simple. Okay. This is the real value of the whole system, if I'm honest. It stops you from spending the same amount of time on every application. Okay, high fit role, high effort. Medium fit role, medium effort. Low fit role, low effort. No fit, no effort. Okay, that's how you build a smarter job search. And the core rule is this: never give a tier 3 role tier 1 effort. Simple. Okay. Now, the final piece is how you actually use this in practice. Okay, because I know probably you might be thinking, well, this sounds very useful and good in theory, but manually doing this for every role might take a long time. Potentially. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. It's actually not very hard to do. Okay, but if you want to use AI to do it, you can, and I do have the solution for that. Okay, that doesn't mean go to ChatGPT and say, which tier fit am I? Okay, it's got to know what it's actually analysing it for and how to make those decisions based on inference. Okay, so if you just uploaded your resume and asked what percentage match are you or what tier match are you, it's going to not give you a good answer because it doesn't understand what all these parameters are based on. Okay, this will just push the tool towards keyword matching again, okay, or surface level similarity. So if you just said, what tier ranking am I? It will do the exact same thing as the keyword matching. Okay, you don't want that. You want to ask it to analyze the role using the 4-tier system, but based on all of the evidence. Okay, and I have that solution. I'll show you an example in a second. If you wanted to look at what the company's hiring for, problems, solutions, responsibilities, both standard and non-standard, hard skills, soft skills, industry specific, what the recruiters are likely to screen for based on that, what scale, context, transferability, ROI. Okay. You need to understand 3 to 5 projects that they're most likely to look for in a resume and then look at it versus your experience. Okay? And then you'll actually get a useful answer. Okay? And once you get that useful answer, then you'll know what to do next because we've looked at it here. Okay? And that's the difference between using AI as a keyword matching tool and using AI as a role fit decision tool. Okay? So to bring this all together, before I actually showcase an example of how to do this using AI, your goal is not to apply to more jobs blindly. Your goal is to make better application decisions that are actually informed. Okay? Points 1 to 8 help you understand the role. Points 9 help you identify the proof that the employer would expect. Point 10 helps you judge whether your proof is strong enough in scale, context, and transferability. And then the tier tells you what to do next. Okay, tier 1 means you apply, tailor, and prioritize. Tier 2 means you apply and position yourself for follow-ups in a medium cadence way. Tier 3 means quick apply only. Tier 4 means don't do anything, don't apply. Okay, that's the key line. That you're not judging roles based on hope. Okay, you're not judging it based on percentages that are based on matching, which doesn't work. You're judging it based on proof in the best possible way that you can. It's not an exact science, but it's a good system. And that's how you stop wasting time. So you stop applying blindly, and it's how you start building a more strategic job search strategy. If you want to use this properly, take your resume, take the job description, and analyze it through this 4-tier system. Okay, before you decide how much time that application actually deserves. Okay, because there's no point just applying for jobs, spending loads of time doing the like you'll have done them before, where you, whether it's through a company website, whether it's through Workday, whether it's through whatever means, sometimes you can spend 30 minutes doing an application. What is the point if you're actually just not a good fit? Okay, don't base your fit on a percentage because it doesn't work. Okay, use this. It's a really good exercise, and once you know how to do it, you won't forget how to do it because it's actually really simple. Okay, yes, it might take a bit of time to do manually. Yes, there are ways to speed it up using AI, which I'll show you, but this is the best way to do it. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'll show you exactly how to do this using AI. Okay, so what we're going to do is just do an example here with this data analyst job that I found on built-in. Okay, so what we're going to do is use this tier ranking prompt, which is inside the STEM Career Accelerator. Okay, so inside the application strategy classroom. Okay, and all we're going to do is we're going to just copy and paste this. Copy, we're going to head over to Career Coach AI, say hi to get started. And then we're going to select service number 2. Okay, and then what we're going to do is just paste that prompt in. Okay, and then I'm going to attach this resume here, which is just data analyst, business analyst resume. Okay, get rid of that. Put that in there, and then I'm just going to say job description. And then if we head back here, I'm just going to copy and paste this. Okay. And then let it do its thing. And what we're looking for here is the actual tier fit. Okay, but we want to know why the tier fit is that tier fit. Okay. So it's come back here, there's tier 1, high fit, okay, and it'll give you the actual reason why, okay, but it'll break it all down. Okay, so it's time for data analysts, sports product finance ops leaders, SQL-driven analysis dashboards, and it'll tell you exactly where you fit, and based on the actual scale, why it's a good fit. Okay, apply, prioritize heavily, tailoring is justified, strong fit, and then that's literally it. Okay, but that's what you want to be doing. As you can see, there's no percentages in sight. If we actually go back and look here, okay, and zoom in slightly. Okay, so what we want here is points 1 to 8, 0.9, 0.10, final output, tier 1, 2, and 3, and then it'll give you the actionable next steps. But for each role, we're looking at company do, serve, market environment, why does a role exist, product solution fit, standard responsibilities, role-specific, non-standard responsibilities. We're everything here. Okay, and this is why just saying, am I a good fit, or what's the percentage fit, doesn't work. We need to know what all the tier definitions mean, what everything is. Okay, good transferable fits. Okay, and you can do this in mass. If you just upload 10, 15 different job description URLs, it'll do it. Okay, but this is an actual way to analyze not only your resume, but also the job description, and then the job description versus your resume based on an actual system which gives us actionable next steps. Okay, and that's literally as simple as it is. We want head to Career Coach AI. Okay, select tailoring to actually work out, well, what's the analysis of the resume. Okay, we want to look at the actual tier ranking, the verdict. We want to look at the role summary and the final recommendations. Okay, and that's it. And it's as simple as that. You don't need to be doing anything complex. Okay, you want to know where your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or tier 4, why, and what are the next steps. That is it. Okay, if you want access to this, it's all inside the STEM Career Accelerator. I'll drop a link below, and then that's it. Just come and get it. It's all inside the application strategy, and then the actual downloads, tools, and resources are all in here as well. Okay, so you can access Career Coach AI. Awesome. Any questions, drop them below in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, hopefully that helped. Just remember that with the tier system, what we want to know is which tiers we are and what our next action points are. Okay. You want to look at points 1 to 8, 0.9, 0.10. Okay. Work out where you actually lie in relation to the role and then your next action points. Okay. Do not base your decision on fits for a job, on percentages, on, if we go back to the start here, on things like Jobscan, asking what your percentage is, or things on JobRite, because it's based on keyword matching, language matching, and that's just not a basis for a good fit. And if you've actually sat through this whole video, then you'll understand exactly what we need to analyze and understand to determine what the role's actually asking for, and then where we actually fit in relation to that. Okay? Good luck with your job search. Drop any questions below in the comments. Let me know what you think. Happy job hunting.